So people all over the Riders stuff. Darcy Engen writes in on the Facebook wall and says, I think the Riders are just keeping a secret from Rider fans that Fajardo is done for the season with a torn spleen just to sell seats for the West Final. Dun, dun, dun. No, I wouldn't go that far, but I can tell you this. I have no idea what the status of Cody Fajardo is. None. Zero.
Few people do, I believe.
Few people do. As a matter of fact, back to Thomas Arthur Shepard. Tom Shepard, the owner of the Riders, who was on our TV show last night, says not only does he not know, he thinks nobody knows if Fajardo will play, and that includes Cody. He might not even know.
Well, he's been pretty adamant that he will play, despite the pain of the injury. Now, he did say that 2 weeks out, but he did start throwing a wiffle ball, so at least he's been through the motion, and he's been able to do that. And, I mean, I would be very, very surprised if he doesn't give this a go, but we will definitely learn more today because it has been kind of murky, and with the bye, I mean, there's no reason for any information to get out, and he's been rehabbing. But just knowing these guys, I mean, you take a look at Strevler last weekend in Calgary for the Bombers. I mean, how hurt was he? He could have been quite hurt. I think back to the days they were making such a big deal of it. I'm like, so what? Wes Cates won the 2007 Grey Cup with a broken foot.
Right. Mentioned that yesterday.
So, yeah, those sort of things. These guys, I mean, this is what they do. This is the time of year you play, and you almost have to be missing a limb not to be on the field at this time of year.
Colin from Winnipeg writes in and says, the Jets game last night was what happens when Hellebuck doesn't go into God mode. He didn't last night. No, he didn't. But the Oilers for a long time were like that too, right? Stop relying on your goalies so much. The odds are out, by the way.
For the games?
I wonder who you think would be the favorite for the game before I reveal the odds. From oddshark.com, by the way.
Riders Bombers?
Yeah.
Riders by 3.5.
Wow, man.
Good?
You are a savant.
Wow, I mean,
it's Riders by 4.
So basically it's a pick'em game. You get 3 points.
Slightly by the Riders.
You get 3 points as the home team, basically. And I would say that this is kind of a pick'em game. I mean, it's if you're a Riders fan, aren't you a little bit nervous about this one?
Why? Because the pressure's on them?
No, because of the way the Bombers played and showed up and looked really good in Calgary last weekend. I mean, that was a close game that they kept close on the road, doing a nice job that they dominated in the second half. They completely stifled Bo Levi Mitchell. I think he had just about as many interceptions as completions in the second half. Winnipeg looked really good. With two guys going full speed as quarterback, I thought they looked really good. I think that the Riders will definitely have their hands full in this one. Jason Shivers is going to have his hands full trying to game plan that defense, which we know is a great Riders defense. But not only do they just have to game plan for Strevler and kind of his running and throwing wounded ducks out there because, we'll pull him out. We put Caleros back in. Well, now you got a bona fide quarterback that's proven that he's looking okay and he can make some plays and he's back to playing really good football. The offense, we've seen it. The Riders' offense has sputtered at times, especially early in games and all these late game heroic comebacks. Well, is that guy going to be leading them again? Is it going to be Cody Fajardo? There's some unknown questions there too. So, yeah, I even think Riders by 4 is maybe even a bit generous for the green and white.
I said, I think Riders by 1.5.
Yeah.
Is what I said yesterday. That's how close I think that this football game is. Now, regarding the status of Cody Fajardo, Nelson Hackowich on the Facebook wall writes in and he says, do you go with the mindset of you have all offseason to recover? Or in this age of sports, is that too much of a financial risk to the team? No, sports hasn't changed that way, I don't think. Cody, if he can play, he's playing. My point, and that's why I think he'll play. Mm-hmm. The point is, how close to 100% is he? Right. That's why I think it was so hard for Zach Caleros to pull himself from last year's playoff game, if that's indeed the story. You understand, you don't always get the whole story, but come Sunday night, when we learned that the Bombers were coming in here for the West Final into Saskatchewan, people were all over Caleros. I don't know if you saw it on social media about he bailed last year. He's a coward. He's this and that. And I think just knowing Zach as well as I do, he's the ultimate competitor. It must have the hardest thing he ever would have done to say, I can't play. Yeah. Because I don't feel right.
And I mean, injury is an injury, but different circumstance. I mean, this guy is dealing with a head injury.
Right.
And you got to err a little more on the caution of a pulled muscle or something like that. Yes, then you have all offseason to heal. We don't know. We still know very little about these head injuries. We just know that it's a problem. I don't think to me, that's comparing apples to oranges when you're comparing Cody Fajardo's oblique injury to Zach Collaros.
It actually is apples to oranges.
Yeah,
right.
I just don't think that's fair to compare those two.
Well, and furthermore, Craig in Regina joins the discussion, and he says, do the Riders take an early roughing the passer penalty?
Jeez.
Well,
on which quarterback?
Let's talk about it.
On which quarterback?
On Zach, period. Do you go after his head? And I'm sorry, but it needs to be talked about because that's what the Bombers did last year. Jackson Jeffcoat in the playoff game went after Brandon Bridges' head. I'm sorry, but it happened. And it does happen. And Odell Willis did it the week before with Zach Collaros in this stadium.
And some guys
do you do it?
Are just serial players like that. Simone Lawrence, point in case. He's a thuggish player. I'm not going there again. Some players do. I do believe, and maybe I'm a bit naive, that if you got a guy that's dinged up, you're gonna hit him a little harder. You're gonna try, but to go out there and just blatantly injure a guy, I don't know that guys do that because they always know that turnaround is fair play, and there's guys out there that would then come ahead and come back and do that to you, and it could be career ending. And I don't know that anybody wants to be the guy that's known for being the career ender. I mean, you could talk perfect point in case, Ricky Foley. Basically, he was the last play of Anthony Calvillo's career.
Yeah.
I don't think Ricky Foley's walking around being proud, telling everybody that he ended Anthony Calvillo's career or that he set out on that play. Now,
he feels terrible about it. I talked to him.
Exactly. Does he see Anthony Calvillo there and see he has a chance to hammer him and maybe want to ding him up? Absolutely. But I don't think in those moments that it goes through his head, hey, I got a chance to end Anthony. No, I just don't believe that goes through guys' heads all the time. Now, if you got a shot to hit him hard,
probably not. But let's just go back. I wish I had the video. Jackson Jeffcoat left his feet to clock Brandon Bridge right here and knock him out of the game. Like, come on. That was intentional, man.
Well, and there's some guys.
And I just look at the guys on this Rider team right now. Charleston Hughes doesn't have a history of doing that.
No.
Zach Evans does not have a history of doing. None of the guys on the Riders defensive front have a history of doing that.
If they get a chance to hammer him, they're going to.
Yeah, but they don't have a history of doing it to anybody.
No.
Period. Jeffcoat went out of. Odell Willis has a history of doing it.
Bobby Clark is, for instance, in the 1972 Summit Series. Ferguson looks up and down his bench and says, we got to stop this guy when they're talking about Harlamoff. Yeah, Bobby Clark has it in him to go, you know what, I'm going to go out there and whack this guy. Did he think he was going to break his ankle? No, but he wanted to slow him down. Some guys do have the mentality that they will do whatever it is to win. But I think for the most part, guys are looking to put a good shot on him, but they don't want to be known as the dirty guy.
No, and a viewer chimed in and said he doesn't think that Craig Dickinson is that kind of coach.
Oh, gosh.
No. Do you think Mike O'Shea is? Do you think Mike O'Shea deliberately sent out Jeffcoat to do that?
No.
Or BC's coach was Wally Buono last year, was it not? Was it just last year? Yeah, it was. And I don't think he sent out Odell Willis to headhunt on Zach. That's not on the coach. It's on the player. To the Prairie Mobile text line, Prairie Mobile, your SaskTel authorized dealer with locations across the prairies. Trent in Norway writes in. He says, Norway texting. Regarding number 14s, remember Davy Keon? No. Wow, that's going. No, I don't.
No, sorry.
And says, let Haley Wickenheiser make history. Remember 2002 and the big kids at Salt Lake City? Haley should be on Coach's Corner. Let her make history. That is our poll question today for Capital Auto Mall Universal Collision Center. Who should replace Don Cherry on Coach's Corner? And the options are Brian Burke, Tiger Williams, Colby Armstrong, and Haley Wickenheiser. And right now, Tiger leads.
Oh, jeez.
On our Facebook poll by 31.3%. They say it should be Tiger Williams. And frankly, so do I. Brian Burke, 29% of the vote, and I'd be okay with Berkey in there for sure. I enjoy Berkey on there. It's one of those things where you don't always agree with him, but you watch him. I like Berkey on there.
I wonder sometimes if he understands the and he understands it, but is not going to do the entertainment value that is. Don Cherry,
he's getting there.
Don Cherry understood the entertainment value of his position as well. Berkey sometimes I think just doesn't give a rap.
I think he's getting it.
Yeah.
I think Berkey's getting it. Moving on, Colby Armstrong, 20.8% of the vote, and Haley Wickenheiser, 18.8%. So I don't think that our viewers and listeners anyways are on board with the Haley Wickenheiser train. Regarding...
She has a job.
She's fine.
And I think, is she not going to be a doctor too? I think she's still taking schooling and working for the Leafs.
So was Brett Jones going to be a doctor. Now he's on the offensive line of the Minnesota Vikings. So sometimes life gets in the way.
That Cowboys game.
Nashville in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan writes in and he says, the Riders aren't a dirty team, but if they want to win the game, they're going to have to start fast on defense and let the offense gain its strength. Nobody's advocating here that they knock out Zach Collaros with a headshot.
No.
Some of our viewers are. But let's just remember one thing. This isn't going to just come down to Zach Collaros either. Chris Streveler has beaten this Saskatchewan Roughrider team, and it was soundly in the Banjo Bowl. Was it not 35-13 with no Andrew Harris?
Yeah, I mean, and they do have, once again, all due respect to William Powell, they do have the best running back in the entire league, a guy that does it both on handoffs, on catches. He's one of the most dynamic players in the last few years in Andrew Harris. So, yeah, it's not just Zach Collaros. It's not just Chris Streveler, but there's a whole host of guys out there that can hurt you. And they showed it. It was on full display in Calgary. I mean, that was a dominant performance, as dominant as I remember in quite a while, maybe going back to the 2013 West Final. When the Riders went in there and just, pulled down the Stamps' pants and spanked him a little bit. It felt like that. Like it was just, when it started to go, they were steamrolling and there was no stopping the Bombers.
By the way, that is the ebbs and flows of sports and why we love it, both as fans and participants. Like they are devastated in Calgary. Devastated. And I'm not saying that we're relishing in that. I'm saying if you hate Calgary, you can relish in that because they were on the top of the mountain for so long. Mm-hmm. And to be out before division final Sunday weekend?
Well, it's strange for them.
Very strange for them. Very strange for them.
And what's the goofy stat that either the team that beats Calgary, like basically goes or wins the Grey Cup, or Calgary themselves? Like basically the path has gone through Calgary.
Right.
For a number
it's
of
wide
years.
Open now.
Yes. Yeah. Boy, is it not just a little bit nerve-wracking as a Riders fan to have the opportunity to lose 2 back-to-back seasons to Winnipeg with home playoff games? That would be terrifying. It's just a Winnipeg of all places. Like if BC came in here, they win, okay, whatever. Edmonton, man, yeah. Losing back-to-back years at home to Winnipeg. I was texting with our good friend Aaron Anderson from Regina High School the other day, and I'm like, man, I just wouldn't want to be. And the players don't feel that. And
they don't.
That's just made up junk by media hacks like myself. But that was all I could think about was, oh man, maybe they should play Calgary because at least that way it's like not back to back at home versus Winnipeg. Who I think is still. I think Calgary's been the rival for a number of years, but that Winnipeg one never goes away.
Well, I've run polls. And the whopping winner of who the Riders' top rival is Winnipeg.
So there you go.
And that's a 60-year history right there. And it's by a landslide. It's Winnipeg.
There you go.
So everybody's watching this game on Sunday.
Back-to-back.
No, you don't. And that's the pressure that's riding on the Saskatchewan Roughriders right now. I'm with you. I think a lot of the young players don't understand it. And there's a chance that Cody Fajardo doesn't understand it.
Sure.
No, there's a very good chance of that because what did he say? It was the night before the Labor Day game before he realized this was a big deal.
Exactly.
It's not his fault.
They're not soaked in it.
He's a kid.
The fans are soaked in it. The fans are soaked in. I remember going to Labor Day and that whole east side, the northeast corner, it would be blue with Bombers fans and you hated them and shut up when you're cheering over there and all those sort of, like there was a genuine dislike, a great rivalry. So yeah, unless you're steeped in it, and I think it's the fans are steeped in it more. The players, not as much. I mean, they're nomads these days. Cody Fajardo, he's been here, what feels like about 3 hours. So yes, he starts to understand it as you're in the community and you feel a bit of it. But it's not like growing up here and hating those guys.
No, and just before we go to break on that, because we've got Nick Lewis coming up in the bunker here in hour 2. Speaking of that, he feels that I hate him. So I don't know if this is going to be some loving embrace here today or not, but I don't hate him. I hated him as a Calgary Stampeder because of the rivalry. And let's be honest with you. I got paid more. I got a chance at a ring. Me personally, why wouldn't I want the Riders to win? Yeah. Think about that for a second. I had a lot at stake. And he was a big reason why if the Stamps won, of course I'd hate him. But it wasn't
a big reason.
Personal. It wasn't personal. I would like to think that you talk about hating Bomber fans and the rivalry back and forth. It's not personal, is it? I know there's going to be 2, 3, 4 people that are idiots and take it too far and smash windows and slash tires, and that happens.
Some of those are our friends.
Yeah, we know some of those people. We know people that it's had happen to and have done it, but it's not personal. And for me, it was never personal with Nick. Now, having said that, I've had a lot of friends go play for the Stampeders or go work for the Stampeders and call me and say, they hate you here.
But
it's personal.
But do the players hate you or does the organization?
Well, the organization certainly does.
Sure.
And if that's hate, it takes up too much space. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I don't. It's not personal with any of them.
You're watching Rod Pedersen On Demand. For more of The Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.